Hi everyone, I'm Glenda with SureFit Designs, commonly referred to as Glenda the Good Stitch. In this demonstration today, I want to talk about this amazing and versatile tool called the Designing Stylus and how flexible and versatile it can be for you. On this Designing Stylus, we have all the curves of our bodies. We've got hip curves and crotch curves, front and back, armhole curves, neckline curves, and we also have some very pointed guidelines, like arrowheads, that tell you where to match it up with the master pattern. But sometimes working with the stylus right side up isn't the right way to work with it. Sometimes, depending on the pattern, you have to flop the Designing Stylus over. And you can do that because it is so versatile for whatever your needs are. So not that long ago, I got an email from a customer who was working on her bodice pattern out of her dress kit, and she was having difficulty with the armhole. And she said, you know, it would be really nice if you gave us a video on some of the fine-tuning and finessing that we could do with the Designing Stylus. So today, I'm going to give you permission to flip and flop and move around and create curves that seem the most logical to you. And why? So that you end up with a pattern that reflects your body and then clothing that fits you properly. So let's take a look at this bodice front. And this particular example that I'm going to use is somebody who is full busted but quite narrow shouldered. And so we're going to say that this person has a 45-inch bust, a full bust circumference. And so that means that we'd start at the neck point at 45, that's the neck point at the center front, and then the 45 would be at the neck point on the shoulder line. Now, the 45 on the master pattern really comes out this width, and when I take my ruler and measure this, it is approximately 5¼ inches long. But this lady, and you might be this person too, has a very narrow shoulder. She was only 4¼ long. So you can see I haven't put this in ink yet because I wanted to show you this process. So 4¼ long is right there. Now, then I need to come out to the 45 at the underarm point and at the top leg of the bust line series of dots. And she had a D-cup dart. Okay, so now you're following along either in our many video options for you to follow along for instructions, like our how-to DVD, and you're also reading your instruction book. And so it says we're going to connect this shorter shoulder, and we're going to erase the longer shoulder dot so that you don't get confused. Okay? Now I can't erase that because it's in blue pen, but you would be erasing that because you are going to be drawing in pencil. Now, then it tells you to start creating your armhole. And on the Designing Stylus, there's an arrowhead right here, and it says match to front arm side, point number 2 on the dress pattern. So if I take this arrowhead number 2 and put it into the 45 dot at the underarm, like this, then all you do is pivot to your shoulder point. And I'm going to draw this in pencil too, because I'm going to come back and I'm going to need to be doing a little bit of erasing. So as I come around and draw the curvature like that, I want you to see what happened is that this underarm dipped down below where your underarm point is. And if you do that, you're going to end up with a dippy and too low of an underarm right here. So we're going to use this brand new tool that we have called the Curved T-Square, and I'm going to make a right angle at the side seam. I know that direction because it needs to go from this underarm point to the top leg of the bust dart, so I drew that line in for you. But now I'm going to do a right angle right here for about 1/4 inch. And the nice thing about this tool is I have this perfect right angle right on this corner and on this corner of the curved T-square. So I know that I want my underarm to come in to this point, not swoop down like this. And the reason for this is because when I join the back to this, the back underarm, I want this to sew smoothly coming out in that direction, okay? So now I take a look at this and I say, well, the stylus tells me to put my arrowhead there, and when I connect to my narrower shoulder dot, it goes in like this, and so I get that little dip underneath. So what you can do is take the designing stylus, flip it over, and make the curvature coming out like this. Now, this is the underarm dot number 1. This is dot number 2. Now, one of the videos that we have for you available in our Learning Center, and of course it's residing on YouTube, is a video where I show you how to measure from arm crease to arm crease. You divide it in half, and you use half that measurement because you're working on half a pattern. And I'll put the link to that video in the Show More notes so that you can go right to see that. But there is a very good chance that when you're narrow in your shoulder, you are going to be having to come down like this and then scoop in the underarm like this so that you're coming straight out. And it just depends how narrow you are across here. I'm not going to go into figuring all of that out in this demonstration because what I want to do is just work on this armhole. So as I showed you initially, this is the initial point that you're coming into. Now, let's assume that you don't know how to do this, and so you draw the same basic shape on the back of the pattern, and here we have it, a 4 1/4 inch long shoulder line like this, and here's your underarm point. This was the 45 dot that I used, and of course this point at center back was 45, and this point at the neck point on the shoulder seam was also 45, but I had to bring the shoulder point in for the narrow shoulder. All right, so when this armhole is drawn, just again following the guidelines, as our guidelines have some flexibility to them, you end up with this angle coming in to the shoulder point. And what happens is when I take my shoulder lines front to back and put them together, I think you can see this, that I am ending up with a V shape right here, and we don't want that V shape there. We want a nice flat 90-degree angle at the shoulder point, because if you leave this V formation there, when you go to sew your sleeve in, this point right here is going to take the top of the sleeve cap and it's going to drag it into this point, and your sleeve won't sit well. And that's why you can't have a V at your shoulder line. But how does that change then? How do you change to modify this whole armhole shape? So let me just take that one away for a moment, and we are going to do the same thing with our curved T-square here. I am going to make a right angle right here, okay? And I need to do the same thing on the back pattern. And now I need to get from this right angle to this right angle. So in some of my other demonstrations, you've likely seen me do this. I'll start here, and I'll just start doing a light pencil line. And remember that you're going to have measured your front chest width, and you likely know a point that you're coming into to get rid of excess width that you might have in your upper bodice. And then I'm going to bring this around, and I need to come into this point right there. So I'm now going to erase some of my starting points Whoops, and I've got ink smearing there, so pardon me on that. This is why you definitely want to be using pencil at home. All right, and I know I don't want this original line either because it was too sharp of a V point coming into my shoulder line. So I'm going to erase that. Okay? Now I can take my designing stylus, and I'm going to do this in pencil first of all. I can take my stylus, I've got my penciled in sketch of where I want it to be, and I'm going to come from this 90-degree angle right there. I'm going to come around like this. That's a pretty good shape on the designing stylus. And I've accommodated for my narrow upper chest width. And now I say I still have to get from here to here. So let's take this stylus and see what's going to be the best curve. And here I am turning this over to make my connection. And again, we're doing this to get you the best fit possible on your bodice. Now take a look at that armhole. You can see the big difference. So what happened with this particular customer is she had this straight, flat line. She did not have enough of the curvature here. And so I've just shown you how to modify and use common sense to create a nice, smooth armhole. Now I'm going to bring the back over here, and I need to turn it so I can work on the armhole. And I'll do this same thing, is use my T-square to make my 90-degree angle right there. I also want to have a 90-degree angle right there. And I need to get from here to here. There's a very good chance that if you're narrow in the front up here in the upper chest area, you might be narrow in the back. It's not always the case. It's all very helpful to get somebody to measure from your arm crease to arm crease in the back of your body. I know it's hard to do on yourself. And then you come across and you say, okay, I really need my back width to be about right there. And I need to connect to that T. And so I'm just going to pencil this in. And then I'm going to come around here like that. Now that looks like a very pleasing armhole to me. So I will take my designing stylus. I'll know where I originally started. It says here, match to back arm side, point number 1 on the dress kit. So it's like that. But this is the shape that I ended up with that formed that V formation. So I have to, again, finesse this. I have to be more flexible. And I have to realize that I can shape this armhole curvature as I need for my body. And I'm turning the stylus over again. And now I'm going to come in to the curve like that. And that looks pretty good. I would double check my measurements because in the back in this video, that's, again, the link is at the bottom, I say, you know, if this is your back width, from there to there, half your back width, you still need some movement room when you're moving your arms forward. So again, it's using reason and common sense to give yourself a little bit of reaching room in here, because you can't have it skin tight. You've got to be able to move within your bodice. But now, when you take this back pattern and you sew your shoulder seams together like this, can you see this very much nicer, smoother arm side curve that's been created from the back bodice to the front bodice? And now your sleeve is going to fit in there. It's going to sew in better. It's going to make it easier for you sewing. It's going to look a lot better when you have your garment done. I invite you to join the SureFit Designs community, and you can do that by going to surefitdesigns.com, signing up for the newsletter, and there's 4 free gifts to get you started, and Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a subscribe button right below where I'm speaking. We have over 300 videos on fitting, designing, and sewing, all for your benefit. Please make sure you watch more Sure-Fit Designs videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.